happened on the Afghan-Pakistani border, something that happened in Yemen and Sudan. And it's now happening in Germany and the United Kingdom and Scandinavia and the United States. And what do feminists have to say about that? I mean, this is a joke. You read the kind of literature that Now is issuing, and they're worried because there aren't enough female pipe fitters in the United States. Is that what feminism is? You know, this is the great feminist cause. Half the population of the Muslim world is treated as property.
What about immigration policy? I mean, is there anything you think that the U.S. should be doing that it's not doing, just to, fortify this country from, becoming yet another massively fertile ground for radical Islam? There was an article in the Christian Science Monitor today, sort of patting ourselves on the back that we're not as bad as Europe.
Yes, I think it's true that America isn't as bad as Europe. But on the other hand, I don't think that's saying anything. I think that's I don't think that means anything. That's like being the one guy in the useless boy band who doesn't have to be lip synced, who can sing badly all on his own. I mean, it's like there's no. The American immigration, which, as you know, is a whole other series of problems in many ways, but there's no doubt that everyone who wants to come to America at the moment can find a way. If they can physically get here, they can enter here very easily, and that presents a huge problem. I think the other thing is that the lesson of this is that at some point European populations will get annoyed because they were not sold mass immigration on the basis that it would transform their societies within 2 generations. They weren't sold that, and if they had been sold that, they would not have gone along with it. It's always sold in economic terms. Some Canadian paper picked up on the point I made in my book, and they said, but we need more plumbers and we need more doctors and nurses. Well, if your society isn't producing enough plumbers and enough doctors and nurses, then that's a structural defect of your society that you ought to be addressing in its own terms, not saying, well, we'll bring in all these Yemenis because Yemen is renowned for the state of its plumbing. I mean, that is an absurd way of looking at it. And we fetishized immigration because that's the point about it. I think I basically have that kind of arrogance. I can't remember now I think it might have been John Lennon, but it might have been Churchill. But it was some English guy who said an Englishman should have the right to live wherever he pleases. And I sort of, on a personal basis, I think that generally speaking, people who are not an economic burden on society and who don't have criminal records should be able to move about the planet with great ease. So I've lived in lots of different places, and I would hope that my children would be able to enjoy some of that too. But the reality of the situation is that if you become dependent on immigration, basically as part of your economic structure, that's a weakness that you should address on those terms.
We talk about fetishes. Well, the Bush administration has just opened up a new program at the University of Arizona in partnership with Saudi Arabia to bring more young Saudi students to come here to study aviation. And it just makes you want to do one of these I had a V8 kind of moments, because this is the Bush administration. It's not a Democrat administration. And you talk about Saudi Arabia in the context of jizya, I think, in the section on your book. What is it with us? The suicidal tendency on the part of the Bush administration, which is supposed to be our best hope for winning the war on terror.
Well, I think Saudi Arabia is a dysfunctional state, and it exports its dysfunctions. You can have an argument about whether it's openly an enemy state, but certainly lots of the present problems that we and a lot of the world have arise from Saudi Arabia. And I don't think it's in America's interest for the King Fahd Academy, for example, to exist just a few miles from where we're conducting this interview, under the pretense that it's just like a regular all-American high school, because it's not. It's not. It's something that exists as basically an ideological center for exporting and for securing and for expanding the grip of this pan-Islamist virus.
It's the cognitive dissonance within the Bush administration that makes me so pessimistic, because if this is our greatest hope, and here are the results of that in these immigration programs and these hirings, what are we going to do?
Well, I think everybody needs to ask themselves, I'm happy to have a conversation with people who've got different ideas on strategy. Mm-hmm. But I'm not happy to have a conversation with people who don't want to win. Cindy Sheehan doesn't want to win. Cindy Sheehan thinks America is a great evil. Cindy Sheehan doesn't think America should ever have existed. And so I don't think there's any point in getting into a conversation with the Cindy Sheehans of this world. The question is, how many of them are there? I think there's actually quite a lot of them in American universities. There's a book out called 100 Ways America is Screwing Up the World by some guy at MIT. And it's got an introduction by Howard Zinn. And on the back of it, there's this fulsome load of drivel from the publisher saying, this is the book for blue state patriots. This is the Bible for blue state patriotism. I would like to know what blue state patriotism is. Because when you read Howard Zinn's intro, he hasn't just got a problem with the Bush administration, hasn't just got a problem with Reagan and Nixon, hasn't just got a problem with Herbert Hoover. It turns out he's got a problem with 400 years of American history. He thinks we were screwing up this country in 1600 whatever. So how you can say that this is the Bible of blue state when you regard America as a 400-year mistake, and that's your Bible of blue state patriotism? I would urge Democrats, to actually look at it in that way. To say, all I'm trying to do in the book really is to say, look, these things are happening really fast. So you've got to decide: is this worth holding on to? Is how we live worth it? Otherwise, we might as well surrender faster. We really might as well. Because there's no point actually going and sticking out all this hell, slogging it out in Iraq and Afghanistan and other places, if we don't think the country and the civilization we've built, and America is going to be a lonely inheritor of Judeo-Christian, Greco-Roman civilization. It's going to be a very lonely outpost of something that has vanished from most of Western Europe. Is it worth fighting for? Is this worth preserving? Because if you have any doubts about the answer to that question, then really you're in the wrong game, and you might as well just go straight ahead and surrender now.
Well, Mark Steyn, author of America Alone, The End of the World as We Know It, we've really enjoyed your time with us today, and we wish you good luck in spreading your gloomy words.
No, well, thank you, Michelle, and I wish you good luck. You're one of the entrepreneurs of this new form, and I'm going to be writing to you and apply to be an intern in your one-woman media empire, because this is a fantastic thing you're doing here.
Well, it's a mutual admiration society. Thanks, and tune in next time for Hot Air TV. Take care.